sugar, all sugar is, if we're actually referring to as sugar, is fructose and glucose, right? And so it's a carbohydrate. White, if we're just referring to white sugar, it's a source of fuel. It doesn't have really any nutrition in it, but it also doesn't have any negatives other than it's a source of fuel. Certainly, if you eat more of that and you eat more of anything, you will gain weight and have adverse health effects. Most people, when they think of sugar, they're thinking of cookies and cakes and things that contain sugar in them, and they're sweet, and I overeat them. And I'm like, well, okay, but that's not sugar too. That also is a ton of fat, flour, all these other things. Nobody is getting overweight by just eating spoonfuls of white sugar. It's just not happening. But sugar gets the blame for these high calorie foods that people eat in excess.
Right. And they might even have a ton of polyunsaturated fats, right?
Sure. The fat in there could be vegetable oil, corn oil, all of these foods. So take those out completely, right? Now we'll just look at foods that break down into glucose, which sugar is one of those, plus fruits, right? Some people have an aversion to those. They're like, that's going to give me cancer, but whatever. Okay. Cancer certainly feeds off glucose. It also feeds off everything else. When you have cancer, it'll feed off ketones, fat, amino acids, all of it. It's very ravenous. It's uncontrolled. It's what it's going to feed off. That's why people that have cancer usually look emaciated and pass at that point in time. So it's not inherently that we're not a Petri dish, right? And a lot of people look at this study and they see this Petri dish and they take away the sugar and the cancer goes away. And I'm like, that's not your body. Your body, if it's not getting the carbs or glucose it needs, it just breaks down your tissue and makes its own, right? Your body doesn't work in that way. Your body has to have sugar. It has to have glucose, right? You have blood sugar. And if it goes to 0, you're dead. If it goes to 50, you're probably going to not feel very good. So we have to maintain a certain level of blood sugar to maintain our health. Right? And that's why we monitor. That's why people pay attention to it. If it goes too low, it's bad. If it goes too high, it's bad. And so you decide to eat 0 carbohydrates, like people that eat 0 carb diets, right? Their body still then makes its own carbohydrates. It makes its own sugars by breaking down protein or their own muscle to make its own through something called gluconeogenesis. That's how important these molecules are to you, that we have a system within us that will make our own. That's how important. So avoiding it doesn't make sense to me, because now your body has to go through a very stressful process. Gluconeogenesis is driven by stress hormones to make your own. So that's why we call carbohydrates kind of protein sparing. And then we don't need to eat as much protein or other things so that we can have and utilize the carbohydrates. Sugar is just this mundane word because it doesn't have a ton of nutrition. And so if we don't have, I'm not saying everyone should eat plenty of sugar, but you should have carbohydrates, and sugar in itself isn't bad. It's just a source of fuel. And if you eat it appropriately, it's totally fine to have them with your diet. But, yes, don't eat pounds and pounds and pounds of sugar, although some people have tried to, right? Because it's lacking in nutrition. And anytime you add a fuel source, you want to add nutrition with it, because for you to produce energy appropriately, you need both of those things. It's like if you were to run a car, you can't run the car on just gas. You need gas and oil, right? If you don't have one without the other, the car breaks down. Doesn't mean that one is bad. It just means they need both to work appropriately. And that's why foods that have nutrition and sugars, fruit, roots, vegetables, all those are much better options for you, because you'll get the fuel source plus all the nutrition that goes along with it so that the body runs appropriately. But there's nothing wrong with white sugar in context.